Hey everyone, it's Brad and Josh here, and we welcome you to We'll Bring the Popcorn, the ultimate film and TV podcast.
I want to pivot us now into our second film of the week. We have The Running Man. Now, this is starring Glenn Powell. This is another version of the Stephen King novel here. The previous one, obviously famously done by Arnold Schwarzenegger. This one I feel was so much more faithful to the actual Running Man story in here. So you have Glenn Powell, who is playing a character named Ben Richards, who has a very sick daughter, and he's struggling to afford to pay for her cancer treatments and her sickness treatments. I think in this one they say she has the flu in this one, but you can kind of play back and forth which, you know, what the kid has, but the kid is very sick. They can't get her the meds she needs. So in his desperation, he basically tries out at the network for a variety of different shows, but they wound up placing him in The Running Man due to his, you know, somewhat violent tendencies and his ability to just basically take a butt kicking, which plays out in several ways in this film. But this one was definitely interesting. I had a fun time watching this because, you know, especially from the previews, that it's going to be silly. It's going to be over the top. It's going to be, you know, a good old fashioned like action thriller type film. And you get Glenn Powell really shining in this film. I think I had a lot of fun watching this one too. Like, I didn't know if it was going to be kind of a mixed bag, but I enjoyed this. Like, this was a lot of fun to watch.
Yeah, this one you can almost relate the story a bit to Wicked because it deals with, you know, it's kind of a dystopian future where the rich are rich and powerful and everyone else is struggling to survive. Yeah. So you basically got this inner working where all the rich live is your Emerald City while everyone else is, you know, trying to find jobs just to get by, and it's not paying well. And yeah, Ben, he's working all these dangerous jobs, but because he tries to stand up for what's right and for the good people, he gets blacklisted and he can't get a job, and his wife has to go work at sleazy clubs and he doesn't want her doing that, so he's trying to find whatever way he can to support his family. And yeah, you think something as simple as being able to buy medicine for the flu would be, you know, really simple and easy, but in this time it's not. Like, it's life or death when you have something because the lines are super long and everything is expensive, and it's very political. It's very much about the rich controlling everything to the point where they have people competing in game shows where they can die because they're playing these games with people's lives. You've got Hunger Games, you've got, even like I said with Wicked, it's very much about the rich having full control over the populace to where they've brainwashed a lot of people into believing that they're the good guys while everyone else are the bad guys, where they're, you know, this Running Man game show takes place out in the real world. And they tell people, well, if you see them, you report them, you'll get money for it. And if they're killed, well, you get more money for it. So they're playing up on the populace that, hey, if you report these people, these three people are out there trying to win money, you know, up to $1 billion new dollars, as they call it. And there's a fun little cameo piece that's tied to the money in this. If you're, you know, a fan of the original, which is going back and looking at it, it took place in 2017. Yeah. The dystopian future, because it was filmed in 1987, their dystopian future was 2017.
30 years, man. It's 30 years in the future, and we're well beyond that at this point, too. Like, we're 8 years past that, where that is. But, yeah, it updates this in a really modern type way, too, because you have, like, technology involved in it. You have the use of AI, especially. This was, I think, a very telling story about the dangers of AI, too, because you have, you know, these contestants are required to film videos of themselves, at least, what was it, like 10 minutes of video every day? 10 minutes a day. Or something like that they have to upload. And, you know, as part of the rules of the game, like, you have to upload new videos of yourself every single day. And you see what happens when they can kind of take that and twist the narrative and make these AI deepfakes about you to kind of morph the narrative into a way that they want to present as like this television production that they're doing. And it's a really interesting story, but man, the action on this was a lot of fun. You get, you know, basically Glenn Powell running for his life, and he gets help from certain people. And, you know, a little special shout out to Michael Cera's role in this, as well as like a guy who really helps Ben out, and a very funny like sequence with him and his character here trying to, you know, fight the powers and, you know, create a more optimal future for people where people aren't struggling as much. Like you said, it's very politically leaning. It's a politically leaning story anyway, which, go figure, this is a book that was written in 1982 and is still apropos for what's kind of going on in the world today, really, almost over 40 years later now that this book came out, and it's still kind of applicable to situations going on today. Some would say even worse. But like it was just so much fun, man. I really enjoyed it because you get a lot of the absurdness and the over-the-top campiness of the TV show and the presentation. Like, you have Coleman Domingo as Bobby T, who was just a ton of fun in this, as the bright smiley face and the MC of the show, who's, you know, they play some fun with that too. But it just, I got a lot of enjoyment out of this, man. It's just one of those, like, it's not the best told story and it's not the best overall shot, but this is just one of those, I love to call them palate cleanser movies, where it's just, you just go in and turn your brain off and just go have a good time. Like, you're not looking for super, super deep meaning. They try to a little bit, and I don't think they're as effective with that, but just good old fashioned action on the run, trying to survive type film that it was fun, man. I had a good time.
Yeah, because it got some plot holes and plot problems.
For sure.
Because, you know, this is spanning not just, if it was just taking place in this kind of dystopian cityscape that, like, they're just having to hide and run here, but it goes to different cities and towns. So you're to expect that this corporation and this military police group have such control over the entire United States, which is part of the story, especially with the, you know, the president of the United States is involved and I guess okayed with this show going on. But the police and the hunters arrive within 5 minutes of a report happening, whether he was in this city or he's 1,000 miles away in another city. Like, the reports happen so quickly. And it's also, there is some fun because it's futuristic, because you have, you know, planes and other things that are more futuristic cars and floating drones that record, but also a throwback to kind of the 80s when it was written and when the original was done, because they're recording on mini tapes that they have to put in a mailbox and send out instead of, well, just upload on YouTube or go live on Twitch or put it up on the cloud somewhere. They have to physically, which plays a part of the show because it's also a way that they can track and find, you know, where the contestants are. But there are some plot holes and some nitpicky things you can get because, you know, you've got these people who are on the run for their lives and they know that they can die. And it's supposed to be part of the story as well, with at least two of them are not really caring as much of that in public. But with Ben, he's doing it for his family. He's trying to survive, and he's going out there, but he's going to hotels, and he's going to motels, and he's going to places that would be really easy to track, and he's looking out windows without shutting up all the blinds and stuff and kind of giving himself away. And it's like, if you were really, and you didn't have a whole lot of time to prep with it because, yeah, he was trying out for the other game shows where you're not, there's chance of physical harm, but you're not going to die in them.
Right.
And he didn't have a whole lot of time to plan for it, but it's still like, all right, you're running for your life. If I'm going somewhere, I'm shutting the blinds. I'm not looking out. I'm not leaving rooms. If I have to, like, I'm staying really down. And he ends up getting help from several people. But it's like, well, he could have stayed there and probably lasted the entire show. Or, well, why did this person, as you said with the Michael Cera's character, like, the twist and turn with that was like, I know he's a little crazy, but would he really have done what he did in that sequence? It was a fun sequence, but again, it was like, this is a guy that you set up this story with, that he's been affected by the hardships of what's happened to the police state and everything else, and then he is helping this guy and hide, and he's just this guy who's prepared for every situation. He's prepared for if the hunters or the police show up, but to deliberately cause something to happen as it did, it was like, I get that they wanted to have some more fun, but it also is a plot hole.
Sure, for sure. Yeah, there's plot holes throughout the entire film, and it's one of those, like I said, you just got to just turn your brain off and enjoy it, because you could sit there and go, well, I wouldn't have done that, or I wouldn't have done that, or I wouldn't have done that, or I probably would have done this a little bit differently. Like, you can nitpick it to death, and for good reason. Like, it's absurd, it's silly, it's over the top, but it's meant to be, and it really leans into it very heavily in this film, which I appreciate, because if you're going to go in, just go in. Just know you're going to just go do the most absurd stuff, have your guy get out of these situations that are like, there's no way that it would have happened like that, especially with like the grenade scene and some of the other goofy things. They're just like, yeah,
it's kind of that classic 80s hero movie where the hero always survives everything no matter
indestructible,
what.
the indestructible hero story. And you get that in full effect here with Ben, where you'd think, I was like, oh, there's zero chance he's got it, because they literally have him going up and down the stairs, like, and he finds a way out of it. Like, it's just, it's so silly. But I love that, though. Like, I like a good movie like that where you could just, like I said, turn your brain off and just enjoy it. Like, it's not the deepest movie. It's not, it's not the best film I've ever seen in my life, but it's one where you're just like, heck yeah, man, let's just watch this and let's just have a little fun for a couple hours. And I think they were very successful with that.
Yeah, and I mean, it was fun to watch. Like it sets you up with that emotional plot of Ben doing it for his family, and his wife didn't want him to do it, and he wasn't planning on doing it. But you get the manipulation from Josh Brolin's character being the head of the studio, of the promises of the money and everything that he gets, and all that. And because most of the story really revolves around that, of the dangers of allowing things to get to a point where people are okay with a TV show where people were killed, and reporting people for money, where people have gotten so desperate because the rich and powerful have taken over everything, that people are desperate and will listen and do whatever they want. Like, it's really about that. And yeah, it definitely adds more into it, because Arnold's was very much more campier, almost like Mad Max like, because you had much more elaborate costumes and vehicles being armored and everything else like that. You get some big vehicles for the police and stuff, and the helicopters and all that, but it's less campy in that way, that it's not feeling, it's dystopian, but it's not Mad Max dystopian like in there. But it definitely went into more about the dangers of how the rich and powerful can use AI for manipulation and control and everything else. And that's, again, relating back, like, I didn't realize just how much it would relate to Wicked in that way of, the Wizard of Oz is manipulating the people with all these tricks and gadgetry and everything else. And it's very much a very same thing, where he's the head of this network, has the president and everyone on his side, where he can do these shows where he can kill people and nothing happens to him, and it's good for ratings, and it's a popular show and the people love it and they watch it, and they control the narrative of everything. And so it was interesting, because I hadn't watched Arnold's in a while, and I haven't read the Running Man book that Stephen King put out, so I really only had Arnold's movie to compare it to. I do know that they made, even with this one that's closer to the book, there's still some stuff they did that isn't the book, because the ending is quite different than in the book as well. But I think, this is one that you have to go in, turn your brain off, go with the ridiculousness of it, ignore the plot holes, and you can have a fun time with it. Because if you go in trying to really look at the plot and the points and his journey throughout this, it's like, yeah, he does a lot of dumb things that you don't think this guy who has worked all these dangerous jobs, who has to account for so much stuff potentially going wrong with these construction industrial jobs, who's dealing with explosions and bad weather, that he'd be a little bit more calculated with his movements than he actually is.
Yeah, and one thing they do a well enough job of is character motivation, right? Obviously, his very clearly laid out motivation for why he's doing what he's doing, and like, you get that at the bare minimum. You get why he's doing what he's doing, obviously, and then you kind of keep that tone throughout the film. He's just like, yep, got to do this, got to save my kid, got to do this, got to get my family. I'm doing this for my family. Like, I have to do this. We have to get out. Like, they really hammer that point home throughout this, and you don't really ever lose that. And I appreciate them doing that. But like you said, it's not a perfect movie by any means or any stretch of the imagination. It's just a good, fun run around and try not to die indestructible hero film. And I think they did that. I think they did that very solidly. I really do.
Yeah, it feels like it's trying to be an 80s indestructible hero movie, but done in a modern day. And I think Glenn Powell is, good in this. There's not a whole lot of layers. Like, he is kind of one note, that he's a very angry guy who's angry at the world because he can't provide for his family, and it kind of stays that one note throughout it, but it's still a fun, enjoyable, and there's some sequences that are done really well, other sequences that are just kind of more silly and done, but it's, again, you turn your brain off to it, you can have a good time with it. It's not gonna win any awards. It's not gonna be like that. It's very similar to the 87 Running Man. It's just something to kind of turn your brain off to and watch and be silly with. Because like I said, Arnold's was much more campier. This still has some of that camp to it, but it does keep a more serious tone than Arnold's did in it, of course, because Arnold's was throwing in every one-liner that he has ever said, introducing some new one-liners for him. Like, he says, "I'll be back," which he already said in Terminator, or would be famous in Terminator, and just like tried to just throw almost last action hero. Like, they were just trying to throw as much of Arnold into that movie as they could, and this one kind of goes apart from that campiness to give you a little bit more serious but still over the top adventure. And like, it had some good action, it had some fun to it, but it's got plot holes
for sure, and it's not lacking in any of that area. But The Running Man is kind of an updated version of the Arnold classic. Obviously, this is done a little bit more faithfully, adapting Stephen King's work into the film here. It's not without its issues. There's there's plot holes in it, there's stuff. But if you really go into this film and kind of go understanding it's going to be over the top, it's going to be crazy and wild, and just go in and have a good fun time watching, kind of a throwback to like the indestructible hero movies of the 80s, where you just know that your main character's probably going to make it out, and he's going to go through the most ridiculous things possible to make it out. You're going to have a good time. For that, I like to give movie scores based on the rewatchability. For me, I'm giving it a 7. Like, I got a lot of enjoyment out of it. I do plan on watching this film again when it comes out on streaming, just because it's just one of those, like, hey, I'm going to throw it on and have a good time, just kind of watch some absurdness. And I think they did an effective job of that, so it's going to score a little bit higher for me. Like I said, it's not without its issues as far as like plot holes and pacing and everything like that. It's not a perfect film by any means, but by God, it's a lot of fun. Just go enjoy a fun action movie with like your typical indestructible hero trope, and just go have a good time with it. I think a 7 is a really solid score for the film for me.
Yeah, I was back and forth between a 6.5 and a 7. I think I am going to land on a 7, just because there is some rewatchability with it. If you're continue to turn your brain off to the plot, because if you're focusing on the plot, like we typically tend to do with a lot of stuff, that it's not as enjoyable because you can see all the holes and flaws and stuff with it. But Glenn Powell is solid in it. Yeah. Josh Brolin plays that executive that you want to hate fairly well, even though he doesn't have a whole lot to do in it. His scenes are mostly short, but there's enough in it that gives a little bit meat to it. But yeah, it's a fun film that has its issues, but you can have an enjoyable time, and does take us back to those 80 indestructible action films, as you said, that we enjoyed growing up seeing. That it's a new film that's trying to feel a bit classic in the way that it presents itself, because those were humongous hits throughout the 80s and 90s, and this is trying to recapture that magic, which is mostly successful in doing.
Sure, for sure. And it's just a lot of fun, man. It was fun to go see it in theaters. I know I went and saw it while I was on vacation in our week off, but like, this was just, you could just go and I was smiling watching it. It was just like, okay, this is like really goofy and really silly, and I enjoy that in my action movies. I don't need my action films to be like super, life-changing and fun. It's like, I just want to see stuff blow up and guys run and fight and do all that stuff. And you get plenty of that in this, man. You get a lot of things I like out of my action films in this. It doesn't have to be plot heavy in this one, and I kind of could tell that going in, so I was able to enjoy it a little bit more. But like, had I expected a little bit more of a serious take on something, I probably would have been disappointed. But I kind of knew, based on the way they marketed the film, like, you knew it was going to be silly and over the top. I'm like, okay, I can go just turn my brain off and have some fun with this and have a good time. If you go in with those expectations, you'll enjoy it too.
It's one I forgot Lee Pace was in the movie until like the very end, when you get a big reveal with his character and stuff. But because I've enjoyed, like, ever since Pushing Daisies, that short-lived show, I've loved what he's done, and he's been in The Hobbit, and he's done
and in the MCU.
With Ronan and everything. Like, he's been fun to really watch his career because he's a really good actor, but he shows up in stuff that you almost don't expect him to be in. And when it finally got because you're kind of waiting for this reveal, I'm not trying to spoil it, but you get the reveal and it's like, oh yeah, I remember seeing his name like being a part of this film, and I didn't even think about why haven't I seen him yet. And now you get it, and he was fun. Like, he's just such a good, solid actor that can do the campy, crazy stuff, but can also do some really serious, solid stuff. And yeah, it was a lot of fun. Like, again, if you like the action indestructible hero movies of the 80s, if you like the original Running Man, this is a different take, but I think you're still going to enjoy it. If you enjoy the campiness and the over-the-topness of that version, you're still going to have that probably as much fun as you did with this one as you did with the Arnold. Like, the Arnold, for a lot of people, is still going to be a classic, even though it wasn't as close to the books as it was, and he was wearing, a bright yellow jumpsuit in that one, and this one's more subdued with having him in the red and everything, but it was still fun. It's one that, you've got to turn your brain off to, but if you do, you can have a lot of fun.
To find all of the episodes of We'll Bring the Popcorn, go to our YouTube page, hit the like and subscription button so you're getting our episodes when they drop each and every Monday. If you're listening to us in the audio room on any of the podcasting platforms that we're on, please don't forget to give us a 5-star review. It really helps elevate the profile of the show. And don't forget to go to willbringthepopcorn.com, where it has all of our archive videos, all of our social media information, as well as our merch store, so you continue to support the show in that way. We cannot thank you enough for your continued support.